I know you're at work, but I have a task I need you to do.
Oh, he has a task? I'm at work, but he has a task? Let me see what it is. Yes, master. What is the task?
I want a naked photo showing me your submission.
Oh, my submission. Great. Perfect. Let me figure that one out. This isn't easy to accomplish, but last night, oh Lord, that man. Yes, master. It's on its way.
Good girl.
And doesn't that make it all worthwhile?
Prepare for a fusion of knowledge and exhilaration where education and excitement collide.
Taking you on an adventure that expands your mind and speaks to your spirit.
I'm Master Nick.
I'm Lady D.
We are the Dom Life.
This podcast contains sexually explicit topics and adult content.
It is intended for listeners 18 and older.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are ours alone, based on our personal thoughts, feelings, and experiences.
We understand that others may have different opinions and experiences, and we respect that. We would love to hear from you. You can reach out to us at www.thedomlife.com. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the last episode of Intro into Domination.
We are so glad to be back.
And what is this episode about, Lady D?
This is all about introduction to submission.
Yes, it is. But before we proceed, we would like to hit on just a couple of topics from the last episode, as we are still learning to try to give definitions. And
yes,
we forget some.
We did, and there were a couple we just glossed right over.
So, Lady D, which one would you like to mention?
So we're going to start with the fact that we mentioned the word cage in the last episode. A cock cage is a male chastity device. There's a wide variety of styles, and when I was doing some research, there were some very interesting built-in punishments, like spikes and electric shock. Yeah. But typically, what a cock cage or a male chastity does is it stops a male from being able to become fully erect. And as the name implies, it circles the cock and the balls, and it typically has a lock so that the dominant has control of that cage and can take it off, but it's basically chastity. Forced chastity.
Right. And we do know a few people that enjoy having their cage on.
It was very interesting.
It was very interesting. It something I'm not willing to try.
Again, you're a dominant.
But it was very intriguing to see somebody have one on. It raised a lot of questions. And, luckily they was openly willing to discuss it and talk about their desires and needs for it.
It's so strange that as I was flipping through just the pictures, I realized that it kind of turns me on. It's one of those things, not that you would be willing, but
I don't think I could do it.
No, I don't think you would want to.
So what I would like to discuss is a chastity belt, typically worn by women. It is a locking item of clothing designed to prevent sexual intercourse or masturbation. So this goes back way in time. They're talking about 15th century, 16th century time frame here. So they were historically designed for women, supposedly for the purpose of chastity, to protect women from rape or to dissuade women and their potential sexual partners from sexual temptations. I did get a little bit of a history lesson there.
What does it look like?
So it is basically, looks like a thong made out of different type materials. Back in the day, leather, Some were made out of a steel or a metal, but it looked just like a pair of thongs. You had the strap that went around the waist and then the strap that went between the legs, and it usually had some kind of a locking on it as well. Some are made with drain holes. If they were like metal, they were made for drain holes for urination, but it prevents any touching of the genital area.
And then looking at it, there were also some that had something that inserts inside of you.
Yes. Yeah, there was some of them. We will post some pictures on our website in our podcast episode overview that we'll post pictures of all of this.
And the final word that we used a couple of times was ball gag.
Yes.
Define a ball gag for us, honey.
So a ball gag is a device used in sexual bondage and BDSM role play. Now, what it consists of, you normally got some kind of ball that will be inserted into the mouth, and it is attached with straps that surround the head. This device prevents the mouth from closing. It keeps the tongue depressed. It restricts the ability to speak.
Some people speak through it. I've seen it happen. There's a lot of, oh.
Not when you wore it.
No, I get very quiet.
You was very quiet, which is why you've only had one time. But we may need to pull that out, dust it off, and give it another shot.
I don't mind a ball gag. To me, it takes off the ability, just like thinking when you put it in my mouth and I can't talk, then I can't ask questions and I can't do directions.
But I don't like quietness. So
we'll try to find a mid ground on that.
And the other thing that a ball gag usually, not really usually, most of the time,
it
will cause drooling.
And when you drool, that can fall into the degradation type of kink. So we just wanted to get those definitions out there for people who don't know what it is.
Correct.
And now we get to move back into dominant submission lifestyle with the intro into submission.
Yes. How do you know you're a submissive?
Well, that's kind of hard. I think that each person will answer that a little bit different. We can start with the definition of submission is the action of accepting or yielding to a superior force or to the will or authority of another person. A submissive obeys or yields to someone else. They submit to someone else's will. I do that with my master Nick.
Yes.
And they put their own desires lower than that other person. I don't always do that, but I try.
Right.
So some of the things that made me realize I was a submissive, and a lot of people that I've talked to about the podcast and about BDSM lifestyle have the same kind of things. They said, well, when I read certain books, I get turned on. And the books aren't just, oh, he found me, we fell in love, we had casual, beautiful sex.
The books you like reading involve way more than that.
Bondage and spanking and various types of sexual control in those steamy scenes. And I know that this is one of the triggers that a lot of people deal with, but the rape scenes. And it's not that I want to be raped, but it's that non-consent that turns into consent. Like where at first when they start, they're fighting it, and then they then get into the person that they're having sex with. That is
also another category of BDSM. It's called CNC, which is consensual non-consent.
Yes.
And that we'll hit on that later, but that is just kind of an example of, let's say one of your fantasies is to be grabbed, forcibly have sex. And that is something you would discuss with your partner that you want. And they could plan out a scene that involved that and just not told you when it was going to happen.
Or how it was going to happen.
Exactly.
And then you'd get your needs met.
And you would still also have your safe words that if something went too far, you could safe word out and know that everything is good.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry.
So that's one of the ways that you can see if somebody is sexually submissive. Check out their book lists, find out what kind of stories they're reading. Second thing, I found myself in relationships with men that were big, tall, large, because it made me feel protected, small, feminine. It was like a whole thing for me.
Right.
I naturally defer to my partner. My parents used to get so mad at me because I would have my current boyfriend or partner come into the house and they'd sit in a chair and I'd sit on the floor by their legs just because my parents were on the couch or whatever. It wasn't like I wouldn't sit next to them on a couch, but if we're in our house, the parents were normally on the couch and we had a couple of chairs and they'd sit in one. And rather than sitting across from them, I sat down on the floor by their leg.
Right.
Not thinking anything of it. My parents made them crazy. And I said, that's just the way I am.
So you done it in a submissive way without knowing that.
Correct.
Or without being in a dominant submissive relationship.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
So naturally deferring to my partner in a lot of the decisions.
Right.
You know, I typically ask or have to play things off of you in order to even solidify my opinions sometimes. Sometimes I come in with all the opinions, but a lot of times I run the story by you, run the thought by you.
Get my input
and then it helps to kind of guide me in, am I seeing right or not? And thankfully you and I are on the same page a lot of the time.
Yes.
I also fall into the caregiver role. I am very traditional. And part of that was my upbringing, I assume. But I do the traditional caregiving, household things, the dishes, the laundry, the making sure we're fed, doing the grocery shopping.
Right.
Those are all things that I do. That's kind of like my love language to you. I take care of these things so you don't have to. And so I think those are and while that doesn't make you submissive, those are the things that for me showed that I felt submissive. I wanted those things. And then, of course, sexually, we've kind of gone into that, but
there has to be some dominance in the sex. It's not a typical vanilla sex relationship.
Correct.
You like first off, you don't like being on top to begin with, although sometimes it's what I want and it's what happens.
Well, and
but for you like the thought of me kind of towering over you, moving you into position, kind of holding you down.
Right. And you can do that. Like we've done it a couple of times where I'm on top and you're still controlling my movements because you grab my hips and you move me.
Yep.
So I think that part of the reason for me not choosing to be on top with you is your shape fits me perfect. And when you're on top, it's amazing. And when I'm on top, it's good.
Right.
But when you're on top, it's amazing.
But I can make it amazing with you on top, depending on how I grab you and hold you.
I agree.
So going back a little over 5 years ago, I know we discussed the night we met for the very first time. We started messaging earlier in that day. We met that night. We went to a bar. We closed the bar down. We wasn't ready to go home. And we got in my truck and found a closed gas station. So we sat in the parking lot.
Yes, we did.
And within minutes, you turned to me and said, okay, this is what I have to have. I am a submissive.
I'm a submissive. I'm sexually submissive.
Yes.
And
do you remember what all you told me that night?
I said that I'm going to need some help from you, but I know some of it.
Okay.
I explained that I need some kind of dominance in the bedroom. I need you to grip me strong. I need you to be in control, that I do not typically initiate sex. It's something I'm not comfortable with, which is so stupid because I love sex. I explained that whatever we do is going to fall under your control or the person I'm with, their control. And I explained that if I don't get these things, if these needs, if you feel like you cannot be dominant to me, that it will not work as a relationship.
Correct.
We will not be able to, I will be happy with you for a year and a half or whatever. But then what ends up happening is I start feeling like I'm having sex with a friend. There's none of that deep passion. When you dominate me, every time we have sex, it doesn't matter if it's been 2 days ago, 1 day ago, 5 hours ago, a week ago. Every time we have sex, we end it going, oh my God, that was so good. Every time. And I'm surprised because we're 5.5 years into this. And I wonder because how can it be that good still 5.5 years later? Because every one of my other ones just melted into a friendship.
Right.
And it's because I didn't have the dominance I need in the relationship.
And it's also the fact that there is the BDSM scene is so huge. It's not like we're doing the same thing each and every time.
Right.
The world of BDSM is so huge. You can incorporate just a little bit at a time or as much as you want in a time. And each time it's always going to be something different.
Right.
So I think that's one thing that helps keep it fresh, keeps it new, and keeps it so good each and every time.
Right. Let's go back to being a submissive.
Okay.
So it's very important to me to say one other thing. You can make me have 5 dozen orgasms in in just a general having sex.
Yes.
I mean, I'm continuously having very large orgasms. I'm multi-orgasmic. It is our world. But you could do that every day, all the time, and I'm still going to end up walking away from the relationship if you don't take control of my submissive now and again.
Right.
And they're two separate things sometimes. Sometimes it's all about being sexually submissive, and sometimes it's about the needing you to control my submissive, which is when we go to the club and we do a scene, that right there is taking my submissive in hand. It's when you correct little behaviors by, making me masturbate because I had broken a rule.
Right.
Those things help control the submissive needs.
Right.
So,
and there was one point in our 5 years that life got really hectic and really busy, and there was several weeks that went, although we had sex, it wasn't a dominant submissive sexual scene. And I remember then, I mean, we kind of veered apart a little bit.
We did.
We were still together, we were still communicating, but something wasn't right.
We went off course.
And we came back and we was like, okay, we need to get back on track. How do we do that? And day by day, we started building back on it and then got back on track with it.
And then I remember the night that we had some heavy BDSM bedroom sex, and you took me to subspace. That's one of the nights that I broke down.
Yes.
Because it was the release of, it had been building in me because I hadn't been getting it. And my submissive was crying out for this need for control, and you did it.
Yes.
And then I cried, and then our world, like for me, synced up again, and we were back where we needed to be.
Yes.
So he makes being a dominant sound so wonderful, that last episode. He's in control, and he gets to do this, and he makes the choices. But let's talk about that. In the end, I still have the control.
Absolutely.
You have the questions, I have the answers. Who is in control? Who is in control?
That would be the submissive.
The submissive is in control.
From outside looking in to a dominant submissive role, it looks like the dom is in control, in charge.
Oh, yeah, you're giving
The
me hand
boss.
signals, and the submissive then drops to her knees, and she spreads her legs, and she sends the
Right.
pictures. But
The huge misconception there is ultimately, in the end, the submissive has the final say.
because beyond everything else, we have a safe word, and that safe word can be used.
Yes.
So we use the stoplight system because it gives us a mid ground. It's not just red, stop dead, red, red, red. We have green, which
Yes.
means things are easy. You know, we
You
can
want
we can
more.
amp it up.
Yep.
And then yellow means you've got me right on that edge. You either need to back down or we're going to take it too far right now.
Yes.
And it means I need a breath. You need to back off a little bit. And then we have red, 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 which means everything stops right now.
Yes. And we go into our safe spot and we do our aftercare
Yes.
and we make sure everything's taken care of.
Now, does me being a submissive mean that I don't have a backbone?
No,
Does it mean I don't have any control or say in anything?
absolutely not.
Right. It's funny because I have other friends that are in the DS lifestyle and long before we met. And one of the most interesting things is women who are in control in their lives, CEOs of companies, owners of companies, women that are in control of everything in their life tend, not always, I'm not saying everyone, they tend to want to give up control sexually in
Yes.
their relationship. They want you, their partner, to make some decisions because they make them all day long. Do not make an assumption that the person who is the submissive doesn't have a backbone. I make a choice every time. Like the beginning of the episode. I'm like, what? You need a picture right now? Do you know what's up on my desk? Do you know what I'm doing? And then my brain clicks in and it wants you to be happy. So I'm going to do this because I'm the submissive and I want to make my dominant happy.
And I'm glad you do.
Yeah, that's good. Do I give in gracefully to you all the time, Master?
Oh, hell no. Sometimes it is a back and forth, and then I flash you the dom look.
So true. I mean, because in our normal life, we'll argue things. And so he'll say, hey, it's time to strip naked. And I'll be like, right now? Like I'm in my room. Are you sure? And then there's a little bit of play back and forth where I'm arguing with him. And then he literally gets this. It's so weird. It's in the middle of sex and when he's being a dominant. He gets an expression on his face, which basically means stop talking and strip naked. Do what you're supposed to do.
Do what I ask.
And he takes control. That's necessary and good. This also leads into the fact that while we said it, the submissive is in control because the submissive gives up their submission to the dominant.
Yes.
So a bad relationship becomes obvious because the dom will be abusive rather than dominant. There is a huge difference
Yes, there
between
is.
being a dominant
Yes.
and being abusive. So if I give up control to you, it's my choice to follow the rules that you set in place because we agreed upon them.
Yes.
It is different when you're in a relationship where someone is beating you up to make you tiptoe, listen to them. That is not dominance. That is abuse.
Yes.
And there is a difference and you need to be aware
There
of
is
it.
a huge difference. Again, going back to episode 2 where we talked about BDSM without pain, that is one of the things that I wanted to really stress on. The fact that I'm a dominant and the way that I was brought up, it takes a lot for me to use floggers, or it started off taking a lot for me to use floggers
It used to.
and my implements on you, because I was always taught never to hit a woman. And then you came in and this was the stuff you wanted. It took a lot, but also in the back of my mind, each time I do it, I'm conscious of how hard I'm doing it or where I'm hitting you at.
You've never hit me in anger.
Right. No. And that's one of the things that you have to remember as a Dom is you're going to get mad. You're going to be in a bad mood. Your submissive is going to make you angry. And it is those moments where if you choose to punish, then you really have to have good self-control to not push that punishment to cross the line
into abuse. So this episode, again, we're back to wants and needs of a submissive, right?
Yes.
So I believe that everybody has different wants and needs. And I can't speak for others, but I can say that some of the big ones for me is comfort. I want comfort from my Dom. If I'm having a bad day, if my mood is weird, I need you to be my comfort, my rock.
Your safe place.
Yes. Being a buffer in social settings because I have some anxiety and I know a lot of other people that I've talked to that feel the same way. You're my buffer.
Yes.
So before I make plans, where we're going, what we're doing, even if it's activities that are more professional, I will ask you to attend because I don't like going to new environments and situations alone.
Right.
We talked about me having to have dominance during sex because if I don't, it's hard for me to get turned on. I mean, physically I can have an orgasm, but I'm not really excited or into it unless there's a little bit of that control.
And even then, it's not as good of an orgasm as normal.
Correct. The mental release, we just kind of explained like right after all that stuff.
Yes.
And we had kind of drifted in terms of the dominance and submission, mental release. So with the sex and with that release, I then have the mental release and my anxiety, my stress, everything in this world after a scene that takes me into subspace, everything melts away.
Yes.
Communication. So the final part of this is communication.
And that's what you find that we talk about in any episode involving BDSM is communication.
Yes. And so some of the things are, how do you address your dominant? Do you call him Mr., Sir, King, Daddy, Sire?
There is a lot of examples.
Yes.
That you can call.
What do I call you?
You chose to call me Master. When we decided for a name for me, there was a lot of communication and talking back and forth. Your upbringing, you call men Sir.
All the time.
So we knew Sir wasn't the name he was going to call. You call me Sir a lot.
I use Sir, but it's but Sir, it feels weird if that
like
were your name
Yes.
to me, your title, and then I'm turning around and calling everybody else Sir.
Right.
So Sir is a polite way to address you, but you're Master, Nick.
And you have called me Daddy a few times, depending on the scene.
Yeah, in our bed with forced orgasms. That's usually when I call him Daddy. Yep. It's just my brain.
But there's no dedicated name that you have to call your dominant. Be creative. Come up with something that only you all know about. If you don't want to be a Master or a Sir, Mr. Did you have Mr.? Yes, we do know people that go by Mr.
Yes.
So be creative and come up with a good name that fits you.
So does your dominant always know what to do?
I would love to say hell yes, but I would be lying, and that's one thing I don't do. So no, I do not always know what to do.
You're not psychic? You don't know exactly what's on my mind?
Oh, if I knew that, I would rule this world.
Yeah, no. That's why we communicate, because
there is a lot of times that I don't have an answer. There's a lot of times that I have to go back and research. And then there's a lot of times that we sit and discuss back and forth and bounce ideas off of each other before we come to a decision on what to do.
All right. The other one is us. I think a lot of people in the world, culturally, society, a lot of people want reactions from our partner when we say things, when we do things. We expect, there is an expectation of what the response is going to be. So the problem is you want your dominant to know what to do. They don't. Just like you don't know what to do. So it's a learned behavior. It happens over time. It happens with communication. If I do not tell him what I want explicitly, exactly what I want, he's probably not going to do it because his brain is working different than my brain.
Yes.
We're human. We make mistakes. They're not always going to respond with what I want. I came home the other day and I had a story and I was so angry and it was a story and I got into it and I was just angry and I was telling him about it and I wanted him to come over, give me a hug. I started crying angry tears. He got angry on my behalf, at which point he's not going to respond the way I want because he's angry. Yeah. He's gruff and angry, but it had nothing to do with me. He just couldn't fix that situation, and he wanted to go fix that situation with that person because it's not okay. In his head, it was just as bad because he wasn't there. He couldn't take care of it.
And it took a few hours for me to run everything through my head, for me to replay what you had said, for me to go, fuck, I need to just go squeeze her.
And that's what you did.
And that's what I did. I came up to you, put my arms around you.
He didn't even say anything. That's all he did.
Yep.
And I knew that he had processed it and he was not angry on my behalf anymore. He was more into, what do I do to make you feel better?
Yep.
You're the better person sometimes because you take your role as a dominant seriously. You're a better person than me sometimes because I get wrapped up in my feels, my thoughts, my mind, and you will do that, but then you will step back and you will come to me and you will apologize for our fight or our argument because you didn't hear me right or listen to me right. And I'm not usually the first to do that. You are.
Right.
Pastor Nick, guess what?
What?
We have our first guest coming on our podcast.
Yes, we do. We are very excited. We are going to bring on Sir Dante Marcellus and Zora. He is a dominant.
And she is the submissive.
Yes, and they live an active, dominant, submissive lifestyle. So it's going to be very interesting to sit and talk with them.
I'm so excited.
The other part to that is they just opened a BDSM dungeon.
Ex Libris.
That can be rented for boudoir photography.
Exactly.
And that's located in New Albany, Indiana. And they are going to be here. They're going to tell you more about that in the next episode, where we plan to do a deeper dive into dominance.
And submission, because she's submissive.
And she has all the words.
Please follow, like, and share our podcast.
Make sure to visit thedomlife.com, where you can find pictures and other details about the Dom Life podcast. And through the Contact Us button, you can ask questions or provide recommendations for future episodes.
We want to explore your kink too.
Be sure to check out upcoming events to see where our adventures are taking us and our photo gallery to where we've been.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you had fun listening and learning with us.
Till next time, keep calm and remember your safe word.
Red, red, red.